Hey, what's going on, everyone? Andrew at St. Croix Cards on Instagram. And what happens when the spotlight begins to fade on a player in the hobby? Well, if you're Marcus Rashford, you let the performance on the pitch cause your spotlight to shine so bright. But it's got me thinking, where are the players whose spotlights have started to dim? And with a few positive performances, could have their spotlights shine so bright again in the hobby. So join me in the discussion on this week's episode of the SlabStox FC Show. This week's episode really revolves around that guy, Marcus Rashford, because it really is one of those great stories of a guy who had really been out of the 11 at Man United. You know, go back to May of 2022, and I thought, you know what could you do? What could you pick up of Marcus Rashford's in 2022? You could find autos of 2020-2021 Revolution, sticker autos, not graded, but you could pick those up for $44, $54, where they were pretty affordable. And there's good reason too, right? He had just come off a season at Man United where Ronaldo was kind of leading the line for Man United. He wasn't seeing as much time or action and kind of been phased out. You know, the spotlight that had been on Marcus Rashford had kind of been fading just a little bit. Now, fast forward to missing the World Cup here in 2022. But post-World Cup, Marcus Rashford has been on an absolute tear. And just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, he's played 25 games in the Premier League so far this year. He has 14 goals. Champions League, 4 games, 3 goals. 2 games, he's got a goal in the Europa League. Carabao Cup, he had 6 games and 6 goals, and Man United lifts the trophy. So he has 25 goals across all competitions so far this year. And so when I was thinking about, just how far he's come, and the spotlight that is now on Marcus Rashford, I started to think about when was the first time that I saw Marcus Rashford play. And I can tell you when it was because it was back in 2016. It was in February. And his Premier League debut, of course, comes against Arsenal. And if you know the history, he bagged a brace and beat Arsenal 3-2. And it left me understanding, this kid's got quality. And so when we talk about different players today who could have their spotlight shine brighter moving forward, I want us to consider a few things here today. The first thing I want you to consider is, do you believe in the player that I'm talking about? I could bring up players today and you could be like, yep, don't believe in his quality. And that's great. But I think we always have to ask ourselves the question, do I personally believe in the quality of the player? Not if some guy talking online believes in the player, not if someone is telling you to believe in the player. Do you believe in the player? Now, the second thing I think we need to consider is, do you actually watch the player play? Now, this is something that watching so much soccer, Saturdays, Sundays, midweek Champions Leagues, Thursday Europa Leagues, I consume soccer, love it, and love to watch it as much as I possibly can. But lately, I've been asking myself the question, I want to get into other sports. I want to start collecting in other areas. And you know what? I come back to this point that, I don't watch enough of other sports to have an understanding of the players. So it got me to thinking again, okay, do I believe in the quality? Do I actually watch this person play? And if it's a card that I'm looking to acquire, do I like the card? I know it sounds silly, but it's a question I've been asking myself a lot. Do you like the card? Do you enjoy the card? And I think that has to do with kind of this last point of, what are you planning to do with the cards that you acquire? A lot of people can answer these questions very differently. So are you acquiring the card to turn around and kind of move it in a short term? Are you acquiring it knowing that you're going to move it here in a longer term? Or are you acquiring the card to add it to a collection? Now, everybody in the hobby is answering those 4 questions differently. And so I think it's important as we move forward. You may not agree with the guys that I chose, but I think Marcus Rashford is a great benchmark for us to look at and look at how, the spotlight kind of fades on him as he's not in the 11 and is not seeing, regular game action last year, to a point where right now that same 2020-2021 Panini Revolution sticker auto sold March 3rd for $125. So I go back and say, you know what? I remember watching him in 2016 and being like, man, I believe in the quality of Marcus Rashford. This kid is something good. And I won't lie to you. As he's kind of faded in and out of the starting 11 at Man United, I kind of thought, you know what? Maybe he's done. Maybe he's not, maybe he's not the player I thought he was. But do I believe in the quality? Should I have believed in the quality? Yeah. And I'm not sitting here and telling you I have hundreds of Marcus Rashford cards I'm sitting on. I think I have one Marcus Rashford card that I enjoy. But really, I think he is a prime example of us as a hobby, as me, myself, who move on too quickly from things. It's kind of the what have you done for me lately mentality. So I really wanted to take some time and talk and say, hey, who are guys out there who may be experiencing the same thing as Rashford? Maybe they're phased out, maybe they're injured, maybe they're in a different league, maybe they're trying, being compared to themselves from previous years. And are we poised to see a spotlight shine brighter on these players as they finish up this calendar year or this season and even moving into next season? And so one of the players that, and I think Rashford is a great example because it's not just the autos. You've got these, 2018, this is the 2018 Prism FIFA. This is the green crystals. And I think this is interesting. I'm not comparing PSA 10s to PSA 10s, but I think it's really interesting that on December 21st, just a few months ago, for $284.72, you could get a green crystals out of 25 PSA 10 for $284.72. Fast forward to March 5th of this year, a PSA 9 of the same card sold for $406.13. So you're talking about a card that has increased in value for the 9 pretty substantially. Who are the other players that it could happen to? Now, I'm not sitting here and I'm not preaching that this is going to happen, but I want you to think about it in terms of, do you believe in the quality of the players I'm talking about? Do you watch them play on a week in and week out basis? Do you like the cards, or do you like the cards that you're looking at? And what are your plans to do with the cards that you're acquiring? And I think the big place to start, and I think this is important, is Mo Salah. Mo Salah at 30 years old, and normally I don't do stickers, but today we're talking about the 2013 Panini rookie sticker, the FC Basel. This is a PSA 10. This is a Pop 40. And I really think that Mo Salah is being compared to Mo Salah. And when he isn't reaching some of the accolades and some of the goal-scoring seasons that he's had in the past, that you're starting to see a dip in pricing because the accolade, the body of work for Mo Salah is pretty impressive. You start, when he came back to the Premier League, to Liverpool in 2017, I mean, he had a fantastic year, 32 goals, 11 assists, and he's constantly been hovering around over the 20-goal mark or just about there and bagging an assist. 18-19, he had 22 goals. 2021, 22 goals. 2021, 22, 23 goals. This year, he's got 11 goals and 7 assists. Now, it's the beginning of March. He's still got 3 months to go, but I think people are expecting Mo Salah to put up the numbers he's done in the past. Now, this past week, he just became the all-time Premier League goal scorer for Liverpool, taking over Robbie Fowler. Now, that's an incredible body of work in just 6 seasons in the Premier League. I think he did it like something like 50-plus games faster than Robbie Fowler. Mo Salah is, I think, being compared to himself and looked at. Maybe it's the age factor. Maybe it's that he's 30. I don't know, but I think people are comparing him and saying he isn't doing what he has done in previous years, but we're forgetting about the collective body of work. But this is me and my mentality of, what have you done for me lately? Are you putting together a season like Erling Haaland, or, are you scoring as many goals as Haaland? It doesn't change the fact that he is still a top player in the Premier League. So here's a little bit of the stuff that we were looking at here. We've got his 2013, 2014, like I said, his PSA 10. This is his rookie sticker. These are all, sales within the past few months. December 4th, this sticker sold for $660. Fast forward to January 21st of this year, and this sticker sold for $600. As we move forward into February of this year, $480 on the 19th, this PSA 10 did. And finally, March 5th, just a few days ago on PWCC Weekly Auction, this sticker did $432. Now, a steady decrease in pricing, even though he has just become the all-time goal scorer in the Premier League for Liverpool. And and I struggle a little bit, and I would love to know your thoughts on this of, is it the fact that it's a sticker? Maybe it's the fact that it's a sticker. Maybe it's the fact that he's hit that age of 30 that kind of scares people away and everybody wants the new teenager. But I think, if any of the teenagers that we are tracking in soccer that we're like, these are the rookies to have, they would love to have a resume and goal-scoring record like Mo Salah. So I don't really understand, but I think, sometimes players themselves can be their own worst enemies in the hobby when we're looking at their previous seasons. And when they don't meet those expectations, we ultimately sometimes say something's wrong. But Mo Salah at 11 goals and 7 assists this year is set and poised for a very, very good end of the season. And I think with what happened over the weekend in the 7-0 win over Manchester United, they look to be clicking a little bit better than they were at the beginning of the season, which could poise for more goals from Mo Salah. But he's kind of my first where sometimes, I think, the spotlight fades a little bit because you're not reaching the same heights that you had in previous years. Now, here's a name that if you've been in the hobby for a little bit, right? Ricardo Pepi. You know that his, some of his stuff, his 2021 Topps Chrome through the roof, right? When he scored a few goals for the U.S. men's national team, and everybody was saying he's the next big thing. And he got, from FC Dallas over to the Bundesliga in Augsburg, didn't really go well at Augsburg. Now he's in the Eredivisie, and he's really doing well. The spotlight faded a little bit for Ricardo Pepi, but, as a teenager, I look at this as a former high school teacher, looking at, thinking about Ricardo Pepi from El Paso, Texas, playing for FC Dallas. Texas is home. You get this big transfer and you move to Germany, different language, different food, different culture, different players, different coaches. Everything changes. And it is a lot to take in, right? You got to think, do we give these kids enough time to adapt to their new surroundings? It didn't go well at Augsburg, gets loaned out. Look at what he's doing this year. 19 games in the Eredivisie. He's got 9 goals and 3 assists. Pretty good stuff for, in a league that maybe isn't tracked as strongly with people. If you're not if you're not inundated with soccer, you're not checking all scores. A lot of people are tuned into the Premier League, MLS, if you're in the United States, U.S. men's national team stuff. And you kind of forget about, or can forget about, the other leagues that are going on around the world. And so here, Ricardo Pepi, still just 20 years old, but I want to look at the refractor auto here, the PSA 10. It's only a pop 53, but there have been some sales here recently. We're going to go back to May of 2022, May 15th, 9 months ago. This refractor auto was selling for $350. Fast forward to September, kind of a month out before the World, 2 months out, before the World Cup. And this same PSA 10 refractor auto did $295. Now, again, remember, Ricardo Pepi is not really performing well. He's maybe banging a few goals in the Eredivisie, but, he's already had that rough spell at Augsburg. It didn't transition to a lot of goals. But then we fast forward to February 6th of this year, just a little over a month ago. That PSA 10 refractor auto sold for $72. Now, I didn't even look at how crazy it got when he did score for the U.S. men's national team, but that is a steep depreciation. And I asked myself, why? Why is it so low for a guy who's actually performed quite well in the Eredivisie? And we still have him as a 20-year-old striker for the U.S. men's national team. Now, I can't figure it out in the sense of maybe it's just, people don't want to get burned again. But I look at that price of $72 for a young striker for the U.S. men's national team. who's on loan in the Eredivisie, who's probably going to go back to the Bundesliga and have an opportunity to prove himself once again. And that's a bigger league. There are more eyes. There is the potential for the spotlight to shine brighter on Ricardo Pepi moving forward than it is currently right now. Now, you can look at, again, ask yourself the question, are we going through him? Do you believe in his quality? Well, if the answer is no, then don't. You don't believe in the quality, you're probably not picking up an auto from Topps Chrome 2021 PSA 10. It's just not going to happen. Do you watch him play? Do you see him in his movements in the box, out of the box? How is he performing on the pitch each and every week? Maybe you do watch him on a regular basis. Maybe you haven't seen him. Do you like the card? Do you like the aesthetics of the card? Do you like the card itself? And then, what's your plan with it if you want to acquire it? And this is just another example. As we go through an example of a few players, there are many out there who are performing not well this year. And it could be poised to have, a bounce back, some solid performances that could have people looking and shining the spotlight back on them. But Ricardo Pepi, I think, is a great example. Now, of course, we do need to talk a little bit about Christian Pulisic. Still 24 years old. I mean, we just left this World Cup of him scoring that goal against Iran and getting us, into the knockout stages. It was great. But he's suffering from injuries. He hasn't played a whole lot. In 16 games this year with Chelsea, he has 1 goal and 1 assist. Since the World Cup ended, he's played in only 191 Premier League minutes of a total of 990 minutes. Now, Chelsea has had its fair struggles, and they've struggled a little bit, in form as they've brought in all these new players, and they're trying to kind of figure out and work together. But Pulisic hasn't been a factor. He's been hurt and he's been out. So one of the cards that I wanted to look at, a little bit different. This is a 2016 Panini Donruss holographic. It's a PSA 10. It's a pop 159. So it pops pretty low again. But, what are these cards doing from previous months? And if we go all the way back to March 13th of 2022, PWCC weekly auction review. All of these sales that I'm about to share with you are PWCC weekly auction sales. So March 13th of 2022, that 2016 holographic PSA 10 of Pulisic did $1,020. Fast forward to September. So again, we're about 2 months away from the World Cup. PWCC weekly auction, the holographic sold for $630. As we moved into November, we had a sale of $252 on November 27th on the PWCC weekly auction. $252 from over $1,000. Now we're down to $252. And then if you look at December 4th, you're like, wow, that card came up to $324, almost a $75 increase. But I remind you, November 27th, it sold for $252. November 29th was the game against Iran. Pulisic scores his goal, and I think we see a bump in that pricing on December 4th. That's what I'm, as we look at the calendar of events, I can see and understand why you got a little bit of a spike at $324. Now, fast forward to PWCC weekly auction this last Sunday. A PSA 10 of this 2016 Donruss holographic sold for $216. So we have gone from $1,000 in March. I know it was a different time in the hobby then, but we have depreciated to $216 for PSA 10. And it's because, really, honestly, I think it's because Pulisic is not playing. Now, he did come on off the bench in the Champions League in the win for Chelsea. They're moving on to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So congratulations to Chelsea on that. But we may be seeing more of Pulisic as the season winds down. And if he's not going to be in the plans for Chelsea, they've brought in a ton of players. You got to think they're going to need to recoup some of the funds that they've spent here in the December transfer window. Pulisic would be a prime candidate for me to move to a different club. Now, it might be a little bit smaller of a club. Maybe it is in the Premier League, a mid-table team, or maybe it's I've heard rumors of Newcastle possibly interested but wherever he lands, you got to think that he's going to play, and he's still just 24 years old. So he is going to be in the equation when the U.S. men's national team gears up for the World Cup. And this goes back to our conversation. Do you believe in his quality? Do you believe in Christian Pulisic? Now, I'm not saying that he's the LeBron James of soccer. I don't like that term. I've never liked when you're pitting, a great of all time with Christian Pulisic. I don't think he's that. That's my own personal opinion. But do I think that he is a quality player? Yes, I do. Do I watch him week in and week out? Well, yeah, when he plays for Chelsea, not injured, but yes, watching him and knowing that he can make an impact for the U.S. men's national team and for Chelsea themselves. Do I like this card? Yeah, I like the aesthetics of this card. I like 2016. I like it that it's a rookie. It's his debut card. And then, what do I want to do with it? Well, for me personally, I'm not into to acquire and flip quickly. Maybe that's you, and that's great. I mean, to each their own. But for me, like looking at this card, being like, you know what? I wonder what this card would do as the World Cup in the United States, in North America, comes in the future, long-term wise, right? Would I be comfortable holding this card for a long period of time? Like at $216, part of me wants to say yes. At $1,000, no, probably not. But I think it's really important that we see that there could be circumstances coming down the line where Pulisic is going to have an opportunity to play. And when you play and you produce, that spotlight is going to shine pretty bright on him, especially with him being attached to the U.S. men's national team. Now, we're going to stay at Chelsea because there's another player that we need to talk about, and that is Mason Mount. Mason Mount, again, did not play in the Champions League over the weekend. Yeah, he had his second yellow. I think he was suspended for the game. But he had a really solid 21-22 season. He had 11 goals. He had 10 assists. Chelsea was playing well. They qualified for the Champions League. And everybody thought that Mason Mount was going to take this next big step at Chelsea. He was going to kind of be the guy. And in 23 games this year, he has 3 goals and 2 assists. That is a red flag for me. And the question then becomes, what's the reasoning? What's the rationale? Why is it happening? Now, the card in question that I want to look at today, very, very low pop count, pop 18. It is his 2019-2020 Topps Chrome Green Refractor. This is numbered to 99. But I think it's important because it's a pop 18, but it has sold a few times here in the recent past. It sold on May 4th, 2022 for $532. So a pretty solid sale back in May of 2022. You fast forward to November 20th, the start of the World Cup. He is on the roster, but that card is already down to $243.50. Now, this is a PSA 10. These are the PSA 10. So you went from $532 to $243.50. And then in December of 2022, it went for $250.50. And then December 26th, it had dropped to $186.25. And just on Sunday, or March 6th, on eBay, that would be Monday, excuse me, this PSA 10 of Mason Mount at auction did $85. So a huge depreciation based on performance, I would say. He's been left out of the 11 a few times since the winter transfer window. He hasn't been producing as much as he has in previous years. And I think a lot of people are questioning, where is he going? The contract situation with Mason Mount isn't super clear. Is he going to stay at Chelsea? Is he going to move on to a different club? There's rumors, I think, that Liverpool are interested. But really, you're at $85. And part of me looks at this again, and we go back to our questions, right? Do you believe in the quality? Do you believe in Mason Mount? If the answer is no, you don't ask yourself the other 3 questions, and you don't buy Mason Mount. But if you say, yes, I watch Chelsea, I've seen Mason Mount play, I believe in his quality, he is also 24 years old, I believe that he is going to come back. And we have to think of this as, there's a reason the price is at $85. Let's be honest. But I always love this kind of thought process of, are we willing to zig when the rest of the hobby zags? Are we willing to kind of analyze the situation personally? Are you looking, do I believe in the quality? Not does this, podcaster believe in the quality? Not does this, my best friend believe in the quality? Do I believe in the quality that Mason Mount has? And do I watch him play, and do I see that quality play out each and every week? And if those answers are right and you like the card, and then you kind of decide, what am I going to do with it? I think, it's an opportunity at $85 under $100 for a rookie green refractor out of 99 of Mason Mount. To me, that, that's a better price point at $85 than over $500. Now, Dusan Vlahovic, I do want to talk about him. 23 years old. He's at Juventus right now. Pretty solid season, but there was a lot of buildup around Dusan here leading into, his move to Juventus. He did have his kind of big, bright, shining moment, and he's performed admirably this year. I think he's having a decent season in the system that Juventus has. 16 games, 8 goals, 2 assists. The rumors are that he wants to move on, or they're not that he wants to move on, but there's always rumors that he's going to move in the summer window with Juventus and their situation. But this is his 2019 Panini Chronicles Contenders rookie ticket. It's not the red; it's just kind of the regular. It's a Pop 118. It's a PSA 10. And that is the card that I kind of chose because if you look back in November, you'll see November 6th of 2022, this PSA 10 did $202.50. Now, March 4th of 2023, it's at $160. So there's some depreciation. And again, I've heard a lot of other, some other content creators kind of talk about this too, is if it's not the Premier League, and it's other leagues, it's really hard for players to get the spotlight. There's so much attention on the Premier League, and it's difficult for other leagues, when you have, a subscription that is required for you to watch some of the games. Everybody's not flocking to watch the Serie A in Italy. They're not flocking to watch La Liga. They're not, the ability to see League One games in France, like those just aren't there. So I think, you saw this great young striker that, got this big move to Juventus, and we have this assumption as a hobby that, they're going to score 30, 40 goals a year. And, it's going to continue to kind of snowball. And we forget that, athletes have ups and downs. Some of the greatest athletes of all time have had, rough patches. I mean, Tom Brady, just retired, football, I know, but one of the greatest quarterback in NFL history. And we forget that, he missed an entire year for an injury, so if you think about it in terms of that, like, a lot of these players are resilient, they're professionals and they're looking to constantly get better. And so I think, if Dusan were to get a move to a Premier League club, or is highlighted a little bit better moving forward, I think you could see that spotlight grow on him as well. But I do like Dusan. I like his ability and his quality as well. But again, we go back to our questions. Do you believe in the quality? Do you watch him play? Do you like the card? Do you like the card itself? Do you like, and then what do you want to do with it? Is it somebody where you're a believer in Dusan for long term, short term? All those questions are individual, and we should answer them individually and be confident in our kind of our guts and our general reactions to what we see on the pitch, correlating it back to the soccer community. Again, we're going to jump back into the Premier League because I think, a lot of these guys, I hope, are names that, they had their moment in the sun, right? In the hobby where we've seen pretty high pricing. Jadon Sancho is no different. 22 years old, still just 22. Feel like we've talked about him for a long period of time with him at Borussia Dortmund and the Bundesliga, but 13 games this year, only 13 games. 4 goals, 1 assist. Now, I know he was removed from the team for a while and he was dealing with some stuff, but what I've watched Ten Hag do with Rashford gives me a little bit of like, you know what? There's another really young 22-year-old winger in Jadon Sancho there. Give Ten Hag time. He seems to have a great relationship and rapport with players. It intrigues me a little bit with Jadon Sancho. The card that I want to look at here today is the 2018. This is the Panini Donruss Optic Orange. So this is the orange PSA 10. It's a Pop 15. Really low pop, but there are some sales that I want to look at. The first one is from December 16th, 2021. So I know I'm reaching a little bit here. $615 back in 2021, January of 2022. So over a year ago, this card was still $570. Now, fast forward to February 22nd of 2023. That's kind of cut in half. $264 for that orange PSA 10 out of 99. This is the rated rookie optic. It is, the orange, if you like the kind of the colors, the orange does look really great when you see it in person. But the question I have with Jadon Sancho moving forward is, again, 22 years old. It's not that he's 32. He's 22. He had that big move from Dortmund to Manchester United. He's gone through a few different managers. He had some stuff he was dealing with off the pitch. Ten Hag has been super supportive from everything I've read. Seeing what Rashford has done at Man United, it seems that Ten Hag has a strategy and is getting the most out of his players. I'm not going to talk about the 7-0 loss to Liverpool. I mean, besides that loss, they have played extremely well. They won the Carabao Cup. They've won a trophy for the first time in a number of years. They seem to be moving in the right direction, and there is a core there that could be posed. I mean, and we could use other players at Man United too. You could use Anthony as an example. I didn't, but again, the spotlight is not on Jadon Sancho right now. The spotlight is on Marcus Rashford, and everybody is looking at what he's able to do week in and week out, goals upon goals upon goals. And so there is really not a big spotlight on him. And I think that you see that affected in his pricing. Go back to our questions. Do you believe in the quality? Do you watch him play weekly? What are your thoughts? If you're saying, I don't believe in the quality and I watch him every week, well, there's your answer. But there might be other players where you're like, I believe in their quality. And I'm always the person that, is late to jump in. Right? Where like, I believe in this player, and you just never get around to buying the player. You're like, oh, I should pick it up. It's pretty low. And then you're like, nah, or you just forget about it. And then something happens and you're like, wow, I should have trusted my gut and trusted my own intuition. And I should have pursued that, but I mean, I think everybody can kind of relate to that a little bit, but maybe you can't. Maybe you're like, no, I'm always diving in head first. And if you are, that's great. And I hope that, your guts are leading you in a direction of positive gain in the hobby itself. Now, the last one I really want to talk about today is those leagues that are outside the Premier League. I think, with the Bundesliga, you can get that on ESPN. You see you can get the Bayern games, Borussia Dortmund. There's a lot of players in the Bundesliga who have quality. Paramount Plus, you can get some of the, the Serie A games. If you have those, if you don't, MLS has just kicked off, and there are players in MLS. There's some sets out there that, people are overlooking. The spotlight is not bright on a lot of these players in leagues like the MLS, like Ricardo Pepi in the Eredivisie. I mean, you fill in the blanks. I mean, even the Portuguese league. Shout out to Special One Cards. I love listening to him. He watches those leagues. He's passionate about that stuff, and I just love to listen. And he's really invoked in me. Sometimes where I'm like, I need to go look this player up. I need to go look and see what this player is about. So he gets me to think that they have quality, and then I followed up with my own research and say, okay, is this guy quality? So I appreciate him immensely because he's always just giving it, his input, his not his advice, just, what he thinks. And then he allows his listeners to go and do their own research for him. But I think MLS is a great place. We've seen players go into other leagues. We've seen players, make transfer. Miguel Almiron from Newcastle was at Atlanta United. Alphonso Davies was in Vancouver and has made the move. You probably know more than I, players who have been in MLS and have made those moves, across the ocean to Europe. And I really am interested in Thiago Almada. Again, Atlanta United, his top's finest. This is his blue out of 150. So, that's kind of the card. You don't hear much about him, or at least I hadn't. But he was on the roster for Argentina as they won a World Cup. So he is a World Cup winner, 20 years old. And if you look at some of the top's finest cards, February 13th of this year, this blue refractor out of 150 sold for $2.14. You fast forward just 11 days, and the fixed price was $9.99. $9.99 for that card. And then finally you get that March 1st where it's sold at auction for $25.34. And my question is why? Well, if you watch that opening game, that opening weekend of the Apple, I know there's, a pass that you can get for MLS this year, but he had 2 goals, late win for Atlanta United. It was really great. It was good to see. But you answer the question, does he have quality? Yeah, and at 21 years old, where, is Atlanta United the permanent destination for him? No, I don't think so. I think he'll at some point move on to a bigger league. That's me personally, but I don't think he's going to stay at Atlanta United forever. And so you watch as people start to see the quality that they have, where they can go. But again, I don't think the spotlight is directly on MLS. Not everybody is focused in. A lot of that focus, I felt over the past years is I've seen a lot of growth in people knowing soccer and knowing football and knowing the Premier League teams. But maybe not quite understanding, the other leagues around it. So, I think there's opportunity when you look at other leagues of who are the top players in those leagues. Are they putting in goals? What's their transfer situation? What's their contract situation? These are players that could possibly have the spotlight shine brighter on them moving forward. But these are just a few examples. I would love to know your thoughts, and I appreciate all of you who jump into DMs and talk to me about, your thoughts. I had a lot of people talking about Rashford. Do you think he's just, this one season or half a season wonder? And I firmly, looking at what he did, bursting onto the scene at 18, what he was able to accomplish in those first couple of years, and then what he's doing now, I believe in his quality. I love the type of person Rashford is off the field and what he does off the field for the community that he lives in, but also, and the country that he lives in. But I also, really have been impressed with how he's able to consistently here, game in and game out, doesn't seem to matter the tournament or the league game, that he's still consistently putting in goals. And so those are the questions, again, you ask yourself: quality, do you watch them play? Do you like the card? And what's your plan to do with it? I think to have a game plan is important too. But this is just a few. Like I said, I want to know from you guys who, maybe who didn't I bring up? Who didn't I bring up that you think the spotlight could shine brightly moving forward? There's so many options out there that I'd love to hear from you, because this is not just me talking at you guys. When I say join the conversation, I hope that you join the conversation. Leave a comment below on players that you think could possibly be having their spotlight shine brightly here moving forward. But I appreciate you guys so much. I thank you so much if you've made it this far and listened this far. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for all the support that you give me each and every week. I cannot wait to come back with another exciting episode of the SlabStox FC Show. You all have a great week. Make it a great day. See you guys later.